Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. Gonna do a bit of a dog's breakfast this morning. We gotta kind of scramble things around because I've got a bunch of short things that I wanted to talk about, none of them worthy of a full video just on its own. I had to make a call on Comcast. Comcast is my internet provider, and if you remember, a week ago I was having a lot of trouble getting online. So I ended up spending a great deal of time on the phone and making 2 trips to Battle Creek. Well, not wanting to waste my time, while I was in Battle Creek I did some shopping. I don't often get over to Battle Creek because it's 20 miles away and I don't drive that much anymore. While I was in Battle Creek, I stopped at the Sears store over there at Lakeview Square Mall. Now, Lakeview Square Mall is falling on hard times. Business is way down. Hopefully with the improvement in the economy, things will pick up a bit. I did see people there. I like to go to the Barnes & Noble there. And there were quite a few people shopping in the Barnes & Noble, but nowhere near what I expected. It used to be you couldn't find a parking place this time of year at Lakeview Square Mall. There would be just so many people there buying things. The Sears store is feeling the pinch. There was one guy in the hardware department. Now this was the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. One guy in the hardware department. And he was sweeping the floor. So when I asked him where everybody else was, he said everybody else had the day off. Giving everybody the day off the Wednesday before Thanksgiving is insane. That means the business is way down. So I wandered through the store, and while I was wandering around I found a few things, and I also noticed that everything had moved. Now that's normal for a retail store to move items around. Just it kind of freshens the idea of what you're seeing so that people see new things, go new places that they wouldn't normally go. I used to run a bookstore, and that was one of the things that we were taught was to move the items in the store. But when I asked the young man in the hardware department where sanding discs were, he didn't know. He didn't know because they'd been moved. They'd been moved over to the discount bin because Sears didn't sell sanding discs anymore. Now that's kind of odd. Why would you not sell sanding discs when you sell sanders? Well, because Harbor Freight sold them cheaper. That was the answer that I got. Well, 2 disturbing things. One, he mentioned Harbor Freight, which is a competitor. You never do that. You never send somebody to a competitor. There are certain stores that you have a relationship with and you can send people back and forth. We used to do that with a bookstore. If we didn't have the book, we'd send them to another bookstore. But not our competitors. Not anybody that was hurting us. So that was kind of an odd thing to do. It tells me the caliber of salespeople at Sears has dropped down because evidently Sears is not having a whole lot of them work, and the ones that do work, they're overworking. So anyways, on to the original part of the story. I went to the Sears store because I like going to Sears. I used to love to buy Craftsman tools. Craftsman tools were considered the gold standard of mid-price tools. You always had the snap-ons and the high-end tools, but if you bought a Craftsman wrench and you broke it, you took it back, they gave you another one. No questions asked. They just replaced it. Now over time that has dulled down to the point where they no longer replace electrical tools. They used to. If I took in a drill motor and said this burned up when I got it, they just handed me another drill motor. Now they say, nope, we don't warranty any electrical tools. Be that as it may, on the shelf was a sander. Now if you recall, I talked about the little pad sander that I have, the little pad sander that makes horrible noise. Well, Just B1066 mentioned that it's probably the pad slapping against the sandpaper that's causing the problem, and he suggested hook and loop paper. Well, I looked at their pad sander and I thought, do I really want another pad sander? I have one. It's noisy. It does work, and I have a little detail sander for most of this stuff that a bigger sander can't reach. So I think I'm pretty well covered with pad sanders. Why buy one if you've already got one? Especially buying a new tool. Now if it was an antique, yeah, I might buy another one just for the sake of having it because it was different. But buying another new tool, having two sanders, when I don't like sanding anyways, didn't seem to make any sense. Now, some of you may be aficionados of Norm. Norm likes power tools. I like power tools too. I've got a whole drawer full of them. I use them all the time. But Norm has a thing where he likes to use an orbital sander. Now, this is a random orbital sander, and it was on the shelf, and I said, okay, better in my hand than on the shelf because I need one. And the thing that tripped it for me was $59.99, now $41.93. Oh, it's a bargain. Bargains for old Sneelock? Yeah, I'm gonna buy it. Besides that, it's a DeWalt. They had a Craftsman. The Craftsman was a DeWalt look-alike. I mean, same shape, same everything, different colors. It was red and black and gray. This one is black and yellow, the standard DeWalt colors. But the Craftsman was a little bit smaller. This one says 3.0 amps, the other one was 2.5 amps. That means the motor's got a little less horsepower. They both have this little bag on it and a connector where you can hook up a vacuum hose, which is a nice thing to have. I think I'm going to try the little bag. I'll more than likely have to wear a dust mask anyways because there's always going to be a little bit escaping. But I picked up this one because it was a closeout. See, it says closeout right across the top. When I asked the young man why it was being closed out, I said, are you not selling these anymore? He said, no, it was a display model. They moved the store, took down all the display models, marked them down, and sold them. Okay. If you still got one that you're selling and you want a display model, why would you take your display model and close it out? Makes no sense to me. But then, I'm not Sears. Sears is one of those big retailers. I think it's owned by another company now. So, what they don't make any sense doing, I'll take advantage of. So I have a DeWalt sander. Because I wanted to have this sander and I wanted to try it, and I said, okay, where do you find the hook and loop sandpaper? That's when we talked about sandpaper. Couldn't find it. Didn't have it on the racks. Looked all over the place. He went over to the discount bin and found a package of 5-inch sanding discs to fit this grinder. He went over to the discount bin and found a package of 5-inch sanding discs to fit my new sander. They're only $2.20. That's the only grit that they had was $2.20. And that's when he said, well, Harbor Freight sells them cheaper. So I said, okay, fine. I'll go to Harbor Freight and I'll buy them. Sandpaper is not a big thing for me at Harbor Freight. It's not very good sandpaper. Usually the sand falls right off of it. Having sandpaper that the sand falls right off of is really a waste of time. I have bought sandpaper there. I have stopped buying sandpaper there. But I went to Harbor Freight because I had a discount coupon, right? 20% off. And while I was there, I looked at the hook and loop sanding discs, thinking that if I don't find them there the way that I want, then I'll go someplace else. But they had them. A pretty good match. For the ones from Sears. These are a little thicker, and the grit is 100 grit instead of the 220, so that's to be expected that they'd be a little thicker because they're heavier grit. It has the Velcro on the back of it. These are made in Canada. This one doesn't say where it's made. It says Harbor Freight Tools, Camarillo, California, made in China. So okay, these are Chinese. These are made in Canada. I like the Canadian ones just a little bit better. But couldn't get but one size. So now I'm going to try the two different ones, one made in Canada, one made in China. I recognize that they're different grits, but I also want to try my new sander just to see how well it performs. And one of the big things that I wanted to know is how quiet is it, because the pad sander that I have is horribly noisy. So I have a rough bit of wood here. Put on my dust mask. I want to set the sander on the surface, and then while it's sitting there engaged, I want to turn it on. Still makes a fair amount of noise. Let's compare it to the pad sander though. Well, the DeWalt is definitely a lot quieter. The little Black & Decker finishing sander is still going to see use, but I think I'm going to spend a lot more time with the DeWalt. One of the things I'm going to have to practice doing is hooking up the little holes in the vacuum. Makes a difference. Yeah, that's taking out quite a bit of surface on that wood. That'll be handy. Mix that with glue and make some really good wood putty. This little dust collector works quite well too. All in all, I'm pleased with the purchase. I'm rather happy with this purchase. I got a good price on it. Works really well. Got the little dust collector on it, which seems to be a really nice thing. There was not anywhere near the clouds of dust that I had flying around when I had that little pad sander going. So, good purchase. The sanding discs that I bought at Harbor Freight seemed to work pretty good, but it was $3.99 for 4 of them. This is a pack of 4. It's $3.99 each. I bought 2 packs of 4. At the Sears store, remember this was in the discount bin, I bought this for $8.09, and it contains 12. Now, I don't have anything against Harbor Freight. They sell what they sell. I don't have anything against Sears. They also sell what they sell. But I think Harbor Freight went out on this one because Sears gave up, not because Harbor Freight was better. If you have any suggestions for a new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.